Welcome to Coding with BC Brian. Today we're going to go over objects and with an intro that we did earlier, looking at just getting the idea of object and object structure and how we can use them. Today we're going to actually put it to use and talk about a use case. So our object is going to be a dice, except we're going to do a capital dice because this is something that we're going to reference over and over and over again. This capitalization is pretty classic when talking about a specific object or specific classes. And in this case, our dice is going to be a class, just essentially just how our numbers are, our strings are, arrays are. They're all technically objects, just different classes of objects. So this is a dice that's a different class of object. So it's going to equal a function, and in ES6 script, so the newer type of JavaScript, which we'll get into later, there's way more powerful ways to do this, and they're pretty cool. But let's just talk about a dice. A dice has a number of sides, and they also have probably, let's call it an array that's storing what value is on each side, or on each face of the dice. So let's call this face values. Okay, so inherently this one's going to be an array. The face values and the number of sides is essentially the length of the array. Now we're going to attach them to this. So this is in context of this function. Okay, so when we're talking about this, we're saying this dice has number of sides. Okay, and this dice's face values essentially is what we're going with. Now, we don't know what those are, so we're going to put number of sides here, and this is equal to number of sides, and face values is equal to number, face values. And we're going to pass in face values up here as well. So number of sides and face values. So face values is an array, and number of sides is an actual number. Now, if we take the time to think about this real quickly, we could make this simpler on the user. And we could say number of sides and face values are correlating, so we could just say number of sides is equal to face values dot length. But for educating on some use cases, we're going to keep these separate. Okay? So we're going to do an if statement. And with this if statement, basically we're looking at the idea of number of sides should equal faces or face values. Okay, so essentially, actually let's say it does not equal face values. If it does not equal face values, what we're going to do here is throw an error. And so it'll be an uncaught error, which is fine, but we don't want the system to still work. So essentially we're going to say all of the sides are not defined, or too many sides are defined. Yeah, we could go in and dig into this and find out a lot of things of what's going on and what's, we could have multiple different errors based on different types of outputs. We could check that number of sides is a number, because they might give us a string, and then we can return and say, hey, you gave me a number, I need a string. This is just to show we can do some validation and return some errors based on that. We're also going to have a method, this dot roll, to roll the dice. Okay, so this is a method, is a function, as we talked about last time. Okay, and all it's going to do is return face value, and we'll say that right now the dice always rolls a 3. Okay, so now how do we utilize this is pretty fun. We can say var dice equals new dice, and our dice is expecting a number of sides and an array of what's in there. So a dice with 2 sides is a coin. So let's say heads, and let's say tails. And then we're going to do a console.log. Let's do dice.roll. Let's not do 3 because let's do 0 because that should always exist. Update this. Let's inspect so we can see the console. We've got the console, and now let's run it. Uncut. All of the side are not defined. So let's add an S there so that's more readable. So what does it mean all of the sides are not defined? Oh, well, we wanted number of sides and we wanted dot length here. So let's update that again just to save it and run it. And now we get heads, because every roll returns 0, so we're going to get heads. Perfect. Okay, so let's call our dice coin